Well, let's go ahead and kick things off. Welcome to the Casablanca Expert public webinar for August 2012. In the year 2012. Sorry, that's your entertainment for the day. You know, who'd know you have a dinner and a show, or lunch and a show, or breakfast and a show? Well, if that's going to scare you away, I'm sorry. But see, anyway, on with the show, Mr. Davis. So welcome. A couple quick things. If you haven't already, I would invite, I would encourage, I would cajole, I would beg you to make sure either today or tomorrow, if you haven't already done so, go to the link I just sent you in the little control box, in the control panel there. It's the Casablanca Expert Workshop and Seminar Survey. I'm polling folks in the community to say, hey, where should I come to teach my workshops and seminars in the next 8 months, and what would you like to learn? So this is your chance for input. You got today and tomorrow. Then I'm closing the polls. I'm going to, sift on the all the information and report back to the community and build my workshop and seminar agenda for the next 8 months. So I would happily entertain your input. Okay, so let me know what you want to learn and where you'd be willing to travel to do it. And you know, down the block just won't cut it because that's too many places for me to travel. Well, welcome. Today is a Casablanca webinar public session. Your host is the venerable, the honorable, the most attractive, the all-knowing and all-seeing and highly modest Chet Davis, otherwise known as the Casablanca Expert. Hey, that's me. So I'm glad to have the opportunity, if we've never met before, delighted to make your acquaintance. Perhaps this is a virtual introduction. I'm happy to have the opportunity to share some information with you. If you're not already, I would encourage you to consider joining my website community. There's more than 760 articles, tutorials, tips, streaming videos, short videos, webinar recordings, etc., that have been amassed over the last 3.5+ years, all designed to help you get the most out of your Casablanca video editor. So it's a perfect opportunity for you. I mean, you spent, what, several $1,000s on the system, and some of you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars more on software. So get the most bang for your buck and learn that baby. I'm the one that can help teach it to you. Again, today our topic is Casablanca Slivers. What I'd like to do is get a sense, find the user control panel and raise your hand for me now. Raise your hand if you have already made a purchase of slivers. If you have Casablanca slivers, go ahead and raise your hand. Find the little hand deal bob raiser and click on that, and it'll raise your hand so I can actually see. Now, if you haven't purchased it, this is not a test. Nobody else is going to know that you have or haven't purchased it. I'm just getting a kind of a snapshot sense. And if you have been waiting, well, then, you know, you're probably pretty smart, too. Maybe you haven't had the need to use it yet. You want to find out what it's all about. And that's what today's lesson is all about. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and put your hands down. A number of people, probably my great mathematics, I'd say about a quarter to 1/5 of the folks online today appear to have already made a purchase of slivers. Let's get this here. I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll. What genre or type of video, what area of video do you work in or work with the most? You can select more than one. Go ahead and click right on the thing that makes the most sense to you, please. On the screen, stop the online poker now, come back to the webinar, and click on the button that defines where you spend, where you focus, where you want to do most of your video work. Weddings, events, corporate, industrial, etc., etc. About 60% of the folks have voted, so again, take a moment, look at the list, and again, you can click more than one. You don't have to define just one. It's okay to go ahead and select more than one, and that's totally all right. So it's always helpful just to get a snapshot of what's going on, and I like asking questions in webinars too. I don't like it to be just a passive talking at you kind of thing. I got great stuff to share with you, but I also want some two-way interaction here. Now, on that user control panel, you can always ask questions, type in questions. That's how we communicate in a webinar. Because if I had everybody's microphone open at the same time, it'd be a nightmare, okay? I'd hear what's going on in your living room. We'd hear the TV. We'd have your significant other when he or she came in and started, you know, why are you on that damn computer again? So sorry for the French. Okay, we're going to close the polls now. Let's go ahead and share the results. So a majority of the folks online today use their Casablanca or work in video for you know, amateur projects, hobby, family, travel, followed by event and wedding videography, it's recitals, etc., corporate industrial, workshop ministry, and education. So you can see kind of the breakout there. So it's always helpful, I think, to get a sense of you know, where folks are at. Now, what I'd like to do as well is remind you all that Casablanca Slivers is a software product that's only compatible on the Bogart OS. You have to have one of the machines, they call it the next gen Casablanca. That would be the S4000, S4000 Pro, S2000, S4100, S3000, or S6000. And I think we have a couple folks from Europe joining us today who are in the PAL color standard. And if you're one of the few folks that have the SL1000, the new machine that's not available in North America, Casablanca Slivers is compatible with that. It does require the latter version of the operating system, and we are in NTSC in North America. We are presently on 5.1C as in Charlie. If you're in PAL, you may know the latest OS version updated, released this past month is 5.2A as in Alpha. Okay, so you're advised to be on one of those. There we go. All right. So, questions, comments, answers. All right. If you have, by the way, if you have an audio problem during today's session, I have a little control panel. Go ahead and type in, say, hey, we lost audio, or we're not seeing what you're talking about. Feedback is always fine. Okay. So some folks are saying, one person right now is saying, I lost my audio. Everything appears to be fine on my end. Go ahead and raise your hand if you can still hear me. Let me just get a snapshot sense. Usually I get more than one. Yeah, okay. I've got several other people raising their hands. So if your audio drops out for a moment, please don't get angry at me. I mean, you can if that makes your day brighter. I'll go ahead and be your human pincushion. But it's not on my end. It's your internet service provider that's failing to give you the bandwidth you need to get it clear. Okay? So, Casablanca Slivers. So one of the good questions already asked, thank you, Mike, is how does PIP compare with Slivers? How does PIP and Slivers compare and contrast? You know, I'm going to go into the system, and we're going to kind of cover that by virtue of walking through. Okay? So let me do this here. Let me do a pause on the old screenaroo here and fire up the webcam. Okay, I got to remember that page is there and available for me. I know you're not seeing that yet. There's a reason. Let's bring this guy up. All right, and showing the screen in 3, 2, 1. All right, good thing I didn't work for NASA. My mission control countdown wasn't so accurate there. So, all right. This is, as you likely know, this is our scene bin, and if you have a different looking layout, that's okay. This is my Casablanca S3000, okay, and I'm clicking too quick here. I've been accused of that before. You can see I'm running 4.5C as in Charlie, and you know what? I made an erroneous remark, and either nobody caught me or you were just too kind to realize, okay, this guy's just got a lot on his mind and maybe he made an error. In NTSC, the latest OS we're on, we're not in the 5 OS yet. We're not in Bogart version 5 yet in North America. Our latter version is 4.5C as in Charlie. So in Europe, in PAL, that would be actually Europe and Australasia, they're on 5.2A. In North America, we're on 4.5C. And if you didn't catch a little blip yesterday, thanks to Beth Klinger of Ultima Photography and Video, who kind of gave us a heads up on this, if you download your ISO files from the Macro System website and burn them yourself, the latest revelation is that I recommend, and apparently Macro System recommends, when you burn that disk, the ISO file, your own OS software, burn it no higher than 2 times speed. It's believed some of the problems people are having with the 4.5C OS version is related to data errors by virtue of fast disk writing. It's surprising that we've never had that issue before, but what the heck, if it fixes problems people have had, then go for it. All right, so you can see again, and I'm on single monitor mode using the DVI input on my Dell widescreen monitor. So your system's going to look different depending on where you are. Now, Casablanca Slivers is an add-on software. Okay, I know you folks in the UK and in PAL are more comfortable with putting it on USB stick. That's right. So I've got a tutorial on my website. I'll have to highlight that for folks too. Thank you for that, Peter. Good to see you, Peter. I hope things are well in Cyprus, if I remember correctly. Thanks for joining us too. Slivers is I would in some ways say like PIP, in that, and PIP is the acronym for picture in picture. The huge strength, I believe, that the benefit that Slivers offers over PIP is much quicker creation, more flexibility to me, the video editor producer, and more creative options. Okay, so let me show you right out the get-go what I mean here. These are the templates that comes with the Slivers software. Okay, now why is that? It's up a little high. Here we go. Bring it down, Mr. Davis. Okay, so there's what I want to say, the 38, I think so. 5 times 7 is 35 plus 3 is 38. Yeah, we have 38 patterns. So wherever you see a space, if you will, that's where a video scene can go. Now, these are scenes from your scene bin, and you're going to see me create this in just a moment here. So they can be, of course, full motion video scenes. They can be photographs from, that you've imported and now sit in your scene bin. They can be still scenes created from full motion video. And the cool thing is they can even be scenes that you've made by virtue of the scene button, brought it down in the scene bin, and then pull it back inside of the Slivers software. So it gives us a ton of flexibility, a ton of capability. And again, to answer Mike's question, you're going to see much quicker creating than PIP. Little bit more flexibility, but a little bit less flexibility in some ways. So we start with and we work with these 38 patterns. So if the design you have in mind is not contained in these patterns, then Slivers is not the best choice, and you need to go with PIP Studio, PIP Studio 2, PIP Studio 3D, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? So we do have flexibility. That's correct. That, that's accurate, and Beth says, so unlike PIP, the boxes can't move. That's correct. So if I like this, and you can see that I'm perhaps pointing to this here where I have, it's called right 1/2 split 3, which means it's actually be the left side of the screen is full screen vertically, and then I have 3 scenes on top of each other over here on the right side. So I can't take that box and move it over. The screen space is sharply defined inside of Slivers. But if you're looking for this kind of look, I think it's phenomenal with a capital P. So let me shut up and start showing you what it is we're working on here. So fire up the webcam, Davis. There we are. Okay. So we'll start with a simple one, and we'll kind of go from there. So I have this these 3-4 shots here of full motion video. This was a family vacation to Oregon a couple years ago, and somebody in a recent communique said, "I'm tired of seeing your family's vacation footage." Well, it's what I like to show. So I'm going to go ahead, and I've got this shot here, and you can see. Okay. So we tilt up one, and I believe this is the third tallest waterfall on the North American continent. I believe it's called Multnomah Falls. Somebody from the Northwest tell me about it. Yes, this is up in Oregon alongside the Columbia River Gorge. Okay, so we've got that shot there, and I've got a shot of you know, kind of the end, the little pool in the waterfall, and then another shot, kind of a medium close-up of a waterfall coming down. And I want to combine these. Now, I think that Slivers is ideal, is fantastic for like a program opening or program credits. I think it's ideal for a segue into a different segment on a video. I also think it's ideal for creating DVD menus. Okay, so Linda says it is an Indian name, and Ron nailed it. It's Multnomah Falls, right? Yeah, right near the Columbia River. Beautiful place to. If you have never been there, oh, go and take your video camera. All right, so what I'm going to do is when you launch Slivers, Slivers is only available via the special button in the edit bin. Okay, so you can only launch Slivers. It's one of the few pieces of software that appears inside of the special button but does not appear over in the image processing menu. You have to launch it from the special button in the edit menu. And you want to launch it on what I would call your base scene. Okay, your base scene, what I call your main scene. And it's actually going to pull the audio from the first scene we pull in as well. This can of course, be supplanted, okay? And we'll just review that too if you're less familiar with that. Make sure you type it in at the end. Say, yeah, Chet, show me how to, you know, replace your audio, and I'll do that at the very end. But you can do scene to sample. We can do a whole bunch of other stuff. Mute the audio track, multiply, bring it over. But suffice to say right now, it is easiest if your first scene you're bringing in will also be the audio for that scene. Okay, you can only have one audio track. In Slivers, we can embellish it in audio mix. So we're going to start with this scene. Now, take a note the length. Okay, this scene is 411. Okay, this scene is 129, and this scene is 411. So you can see that I have two scenes that are identical length. One scene that is shorter than the others. Okay, I'm doing that on purpose. And it's pretty cool because Slivers will warn me that you know, I have a potential issue. I have a scene that I'm including that is not the length of the base scene. So I just wanted to highlight that before we jump into Slivers. So again, we select our base scene. We left click on Special. We scroll down. You'll find Slivers is one of the operators in the top part of the menu. You likely know if you've been working with your Casablanca for some time, and I see many on the list have been working on the system for long time. The menu is split in two, and it's one of the operators, and it's in the top part. The cute little icon shows you know, a separated scene. We simply left click on Start Slivers, and what will open up will be what I was working on last time. So the first time you open Slivers, it will open up on that piece, and we're going to actually, doesn't he look happy? Good grief, looks like a mugshot that's going to be on TMZ or something. So let's do this. Go ahead and click on type. When you click on type, what that means is maybe a better word if the developers had asked me, okay, we're translating in English, what would be the best word for that button? I would say template. But, you know, that's my preference. So let's go ahead here, and you can see those are the templates. There's 38 different templates. Now, in this particular effect sequence, I'm going to use 3 different shots, okay? And I think this one's going to work best. I've got a full scene on the left side, the left half, and then I have 2 scenes over here. So you can see that's got the dashed lines. I'm selecting that. We left-click OK, and it will impart that scene now using the footage that was there previously. Now, again, if you're launching Slivers for the very first time, the scene that you had launched it on will be the one that's in there. So, in fact, see it's in there? So I've got a scene that's sitting on top. To get rid of a scene, if you have loaded a scene in Slivers, just click this X, okay? So I can come over here and click the X, and it will remove that scene. So if you're using Slivers for the very first time, this is what it will look like. the base scene, remember there's that waterfall, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn up the contrast on the bars. You can see, perhaps if you squint, you see this, the little fine line that's defining the template, what I call the template or the type, okay? That is modifiable, customizable. Down here where it says size, okay, right down here at the bottom, bars size. You can take the size down to 0 and the bars disappear. So you don't actually have to have a border or a bar separating your content. We'll see what that looks like in a minute. But I'm going to go ahead and accentuate. I'm going to make it bigger, and I'm going to change the color. So I click on color, and I can make it solid. We'll just make it a solid white. You know, that doesn't look good with the waterfall, does it? Let's make it a solid black then. Whoa, that's very easy to see. So you can see, you know, the definition in the sign. Let's see, we got a question. Will it save when you hit the X? No, it doesn't save. It's removing that video from that part of your template. So I have a base scene. See down here, when I'm clicking down here, I'm selecting the part of the template I want to work on. Okay, and I want to work on this waterfall. So I click on this leftmost template, okay, and I have the ability, well, we'll see, we'll bring that in here in a minute. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to left click on scene, and I'm going to say, yeah, I want to select that scene for the waterfall. And see how it kind of centered it? It centered the waterfall. Now, if you're getting confused about the background, don't think about that right now. Think about the separate parts of the video. Now, there's a couple indicators I want you to see right away. See how when I clicked and dragged, you have the little hand. See the little hand icon that we have here? Let me move it over so you can, okay? The little tiny hand icon that we've seen before in our Casablanca, when you see that, you have the ability to left click, thanks Ron, or reposition that, okay? The little hand allows me to reposition where that clip is. So I can move it wherever I want to. But you may notice if you look at the top, I've repositioned or moved that scene now to where it's not covering the template entirely, okay? So I would say that's probably not good. In fact, here's one of the 2 indicators you'll see inside of Slivers, which is a great little help. See this little icon here that's white with the orange kind of corners on it? It's telling me, whoa, whoa, what you've done is you've either repositioned or you've scaled, you've adjusted the size of the clip to where it's not covering up that part in your template. When I move it appropriately, look down. I want you to focus right down here for a moment, please. When I move that, you see I've got the orange. When I position it properly, just for a moment, the orange goes away. So that's another indicator that, in fact, I have correctly positioned that to be in the right place. Good question. We have a colleague asking, have you scaled the video or just centered it? Is it resized or centered? The answer is found right here. Okay, this scale tells me when I'm on this scene, this part of Slivers, what the size is relative to how it came in. When it's at 100%, then it is not resized. It remains the original actual size, and it's only repositioned. So instead of clicking with the hand and dragging, I can also use the X coordinates. Okay, see how it's sliding? In fact, most people would probably prefer this. And if you have content, if you have video that's centered, okay, and this is largely centered, this waterfall, you know, over here it's not looking too pretty, and over here it's like it doesn't look good. So I want that to be centered as I tilt up this waterfall, and I double check to make sure I don't have the orange or red notification, so I know it is covering it up. Okay, so the y-axis is up and down. Okay, it's the Cartesian coordinate system. The x-axis is left to right. So we have left to right with the x, up and down with the y's. Okay, the y's have it. Now we can scale that. Okay, I can zoom out, if you will, and make it smaller. But here again, we're going to get the orange indicator saying that, whoa, 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 it's too small. It's not going to cover up that part of the template. So I can zoom in, but just like the other zoom function, even though this is HD content, we're in an HD project. This is a 1920 by 1080 video that's been downscaled to 1440. It's still, there is going to be some degree of, maybe artifacting is not the right word, but there will be some noticeable loss in resolution image quality as I zoom in. The more you zoom in, the more it's going to be noticeable. Okay? So now, one quick tip too. When you have long videos, I'm finding that scaling, because the video has to be the same height, top to bottom, you can't really zoom out because then your video is going to be smaller than this space. Okay, I can zoom in to enlarge it slightly, but again, I have to watch the quality. When you're dealing with boxes or parts of the sliver that's smaller, then it works to be able to scale because we have a smaller hole that we're putting this peg into. Okay, in fact, let's do that now. You can either click right on the part. I've just clicked with my trackball up here, or you can click down here in the parts preview. Either one will select that part. See how I'm selecting back and forth? Or I'm clicking here and selecting back and forth. We want to change the top box. So we click on the box, okay? And you can see this is the other way to toggle through. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. So the way the template was set up by the developers, Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. Okay? So again, it depends on, you know, what's most comfortable to you. Then we go ahead and left click on the scene button. It opens up the scene bin, and we left click OK. And so I have added that second scene. Now what's nice, it automatically scales it to 50%. Okay, so Elon, you can see here that, you know, the answer to your question a moment ago was it has automatically scaled it for me. I can go back to 100%, and the nice thing is, even though I'm zooming in, as it were, I'm not exceeding the original size, the original resolution. Okay, so it's actually, let's see, somebody says they've lost audio. Double checking. I've got audio here, so it must be on your internet service provider. We have the ability to go in full screen and see this. As long as I don't, as long as I don't position it to where it's going to go below the line and expose, you know, not fully cover up that part of the system. But actually, you know, that's a nice shot, but I actually prefer the shot showing the vegetation in the foreground. So I think the system had it down to 50%. And it's totally user preference. I'm a person who likes to click right on it rather than use the X and Y coordinates. But, you know, whatever works best for you is going to be your best option. Let's see, one of our colleagues asks here, it's a good question. Where'd it go here? I don't seem to have the edit part of the panel. Is this relevant to PAL systems only or the machine that I'm using? Nope, this will work in the 4000, 4000 Pro, or the 4100. What happens is, depending on your monitor setting, if your monitor setting, and I'm trying to remember the resolution, and I can't right off the top of my head, it says it in the Slivers manual. We can look it up at the end, remind me. But if you're using S-Video, if you're using video output rather than DVI or HDMI, you are at a lower resolution. And what I want you to do is look, there's a pull-down monitor that will let you switch between these different menus. Okay? So that's why you're not seeing it here. And we'll, again, remind me at the end of the session, we'll go into the menu at that time. Okay, here's the indication I wanted to point out to you. See this little, looks like the letter C? What it's supposed to be telling you and me is that it's incomplete. See how this is a solid rectangle? We might say that that's a completed rectangle. It's whole. This is a part of a whole. And what that's supposed to represent and warn us or tell us, it should be red or orange, I think, but it's supposed to tell us, hey, dude, the scene that you've selected isn't long enough. It's not the proper length. It's short. It's going to end before your base scene is in terms of time. Remember, that's the scene that was too short. So knowing that, I'd be wise to back out here and say, oh, doggone it. Oh, you know what? It's going to create that. So let's cancel that. Let me come over here and remember that I had trimmed that. So let me untrim it and get it back to the full 411. Okay. Now it matches the time of the other scenes. So when I go in here and return to Slivers, okay, and the nice thing is when you leave Slivers and come back in, it retains your last setting, as you saw when I launched today. Okay. Now take a look at this. See, our scene, our rectangle is whole. Our rectangle is complete. So we have now a scene that is the proper length. Okay. Item number 3, we come down here. We select that part, which is part number 3. We left-click on Scene, and we select our third scene, which is also the appropriate time. Okay, we can move this menu out of the way by clicking, you know, the up-down arrows right here. And now we have our full scene. What I recommend folks should do is click on the preview. Okay, and you know, just make sure that if you need or want to make a change, you can reposition things right here. You know, I can reposition that if I want to, and then go ahead and preview. Okay. Once you're done, you go ahead and render that, and I've already done this effect for us to save us time, and there's the finished piece. Isn't it cool? So again, a really nice program. Okay, let's show the embellishments real quickly and then move on to some intermediate stuff and show you some other templates. Now I'm going to go back into Slivers, and the nice thing is, again, it retains the last thing I did. We have these ugly borders. Maybe they're not ugly. I guess they could be pretty in some ways, but we have 3 different ways to embellish those. Okay, we have solid color, and we have the size. You can go to a size as big as 100, which I believe is 100 pixels. Which is kind of ugly. Okay. Now you can go size down to 0. There is no way within the Slivers program to introduce soft edge borders. Okay. You only have the ability to introduce hard edge borders or outline bars, edges. Okay. So let's say I'm going to go with a size of 5. Okay, and you can see if I've adjusted the size of the bars. Now, when you adjust bars, it's not just the bar for the scene that you have selected down here, the part. Okay, it's the bar, all the bars on screen. Okay, now I have a warning on screen. Who can see where that is? Look for the warning down in my parts menu. I was just fiddling around with the position of one of my parts. That doesn't sound good. I've moved one of my parts. Okay, this is family radio, so we're not going to, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and reposition that. And I'm thinking, oh, I don't want to fiddle with this. Well, you know what? There's a cool little button that enables us to do it automatically. And it's over here. It's called the anchor point. So you can see I have part number 3 selected. Okay? When I left-click on the anchor point, it opens up in a menu, and it says, okay, Chet, I will go ahead and automatically position this scene or this clip for you. Where or how do you want me to reposition it? And I would say, dear Casablanca, reposition it for the center, okay? Or reposition it so that the upper left edge matches the upper left edge. Now, why it's not allowing me to reposition is that I don't have the correct size, okay? Now I'm repositioned with the anchor point being the center, and I'm still getting a warning. So let's see. I'm either, okay, I see. If the other thing is, if I take my coordinates back to 0, 0, and I can go back to 50% here, with the anchor point in the center, it is going to correctly position that and give me back my white bars. Let's see, we have a question here. If you applied a mask to each scene and then made scenes of that, then put them in Slivers with 0 size, would it show the shape if you wanted the scenes to look more like TV screens? You could, but there's going to be a background. Okay? So you could launch it on top of another scene as the native background, and then replace each of the scenes. We'll do that at the end. That's a good exercise. Thanks, Mike. Okay? So that's a taste, kind of, that's Slivers 101, okay? So let's build on that. Let me show you what I thought was kind of cool. Sort of the obvious application for Slivers is to be able to take images, okay? Now, here's another one. Here's a quad split, which I think is a nice piece. Now, you can do this easily with pip, but the other downside, to answer Mike's other question is, he didn't ask this, but I'm going to ask the hypothetical question. Well, Chet, can I do this with pip? Yeah, you can do a 4-window pip, okay? But you'd have to do it 2 at a time, make a scene of that, and then do the other 2 at a time. Because as we know, in Pip Studio, in Pip Studio 2, the maximum you can do is 2 scenes, 2 video scenes at one time, okay? But in Slivers, what I can do is I can select a type that is essentially a quad split. And when we talk about a quad split, I guess I'm using old-fashioned nomenclature. They call it a grid, 4. Okay? It gives us 4 equally positioned full-motion video scenes. Okay? And what we would do is we would click here, grab a scene, and in this case you can see what I did is I grabbed, these are scenes of autumn. Now, I don't like where that's positioned, so I'm going to click on it here, and I'm going to actually zoom out a little bit, adjust the scale, and reposition that. Then I'm going to come over here to the next part number 2, click on Scene, and let's come over here to the other content. Let's select a leafy tree that's facing the other direction now. And let's go ahead and, again, increase the magnification and move it over. And I do a double check, is it, oh, and look, see, we have a little warning here that I don't have enough length on that scene. I'm not going to fix that just yet. And here I have some leaves. Now, by virtue of processing an effect, you can see I have a black border around here. So that's retained in the scene inside this scene bin. I want to get rid of that. I don't want to show the black border, so I'm going to click on magnification. And here I just coming out to 57% will cover it up. And in the bottom right-hand corner, we're going to go ahead and select a different scene. And I've got this shot right here. Okay? So when we go ahead and render that, here's what the finished effect looks like. Okay? You can see that I have a white edge. Okay? So again, how do you adjust the edge? I started talking about that and made a left turn. So we have the size of the edge. You got that. You got the color. Okay? It opens up the color requester, which you may know, you're very familiar with already. You have the ability to select solid colors, and you have your inkwell with 6 colors. If you want a different color, you left-click on Change Color. And then using the color requester, we have 4,096 colors possible. I've not actually counted them myself, but I'm told mathematically, scientifically, that's our choice. And I'm not going to split hairs because number 4,095 and 4,096, they're just slight variations of each other. So, if I wanted a particular color, I could go ahead and select Pick Color. Okay? So I could pick the color of the blue sky. So the blue sky will become my border. Okay? So you have all the options that we're accustomed to working with. So that's solid color. We also have the ability to select a pattern. So we click on Pattern, and we click on Select Pattern. What it opens up is the Casablanca image pool. And in image pool, we'll just start with something everybody has because we're all on the Bogart system to use this software. Okay, you've got your mask, so you can use a nice gradient fill. Okay, and there's a black at the top, white at the bottom, gradient fill. Okay, but let's select another pattern. Inside the Bogart SE, we have images, which not many people use, but this is one I actually do like to use. I think it's really cool looking. Now, some of this is not going to look too obvious unless you have a larger border. So here you can see we have a larger border put over that. So you can get, a really cool looking piece. And those of you who are members of my website, there's a 45-minute webinar back in there on how to adjust the colors inside of the image pool. Okay, so we can make this whatever we want. I could make this all blue. Okay. So we have a lot of capabilities. So we have the colors, we have the patterns, and then we have bleed. A better name for bleed would be gradient fill. Okay? A gradient fill. Good point, Beth. When you go with a larger bar here, it almost looks like there's a background behind the scene. It's a really elegant look, I think. So here's what a bleed is. A bleed is a gradient fill. And bleed depends on two things. The colors that you select, so you can see that I'm going from blue to white. Okay? And if you're 0, it's blue to white. Okay? If you're at 90 degrees, you're vertical. Okay? And think in variables of 90 degrees. So you have 0, you have 90, you have 180, and then you have 270. See, I didn't think I used to know math when I was a kid, but if you do video, you know a lot more math than you let people, know. So I can go blue to green if I wanted to. Okay, so you can see the background here. So you have full capabilities and full variation to do all kinds of really cool functions. So again, the 3 functions that we have to modify the bars, well, the 4. 1 is the size. Okay. 2 is a solid color. You select the color. 3 is a pattern. Select the pattern. 4 is the bleed or the gradient fill. You have all those choices within the Slivers program, and it utilizes what you have. So if I've got all kinds of additional add-on software, I can take advantage of that. For example, if I've got Candy Factory, and those of you who have been to my workshops and my webinars know I love Candy Factory, I can come down here and select the polychromatic. Okay? And you have, 280 different masks available just by using the Candy Factory. You can use VME Compact. You can use the VSR USB. You've got all those choices, all those options, magic lights, and colorize them. Full capabilities right in the system. Okay? Questions, comments, answers? Okay, let's step it up. Here's a fun thing that I did. I was playing with Slivers, and I said, it is nice to build an effect like this where you have 3 different scenes going on. But, what would make a cool video menu or a cool, thank you for those comments. All right. I appreciate the feedback. I didn't ask for feedback, somebody else. Thank you. I need to do that. I just get so excited in my teaching, and I don't see your hands raised. So if you have a question, type it in the box, please. You may know that I'm watching. It's like a juggling act. My dual-core processor's going full speed. I got the fan on, pointing at my brain. Okay, so I am watching the question stream. If it's relevant, I'll make a comment. I said, what would make a really cool DVD menu or a really cool opening for a program is if I had a really killer shot and I wanted to emphasize it. So what I did is I took this scene, I opened it up in Slivers, I started Slivers, and I said, okay, let's select a type here, and I'm trying to remember now which one I selected, but that's okay. I'll pretend that I know what I'm doing here. There we go. I selected this one, okay, and let's make the bars kind of narrow, and I'm going to select a scene down here as the base scene, okay. Okay, and then I'm going to position that. Now, this is a shot that tilts up, so I'm going to set it near the bottom, and it's going to tilt up. Then I'm going to put the exact same scene, not a different scene. I'm going to put the exact same scene in here, and here, and here. So what I've done is I've taken the same scene and added it multiple times for emphasis, and here's the finished effect. Isn't that cool? Nice stuff. Nice stuff. Now, I know that some people's little brains are spinning and thinking, okay, well, what does that mean then? We can take a scene from the scene bin. So yes, if you have a collage, for a montage, I should say, a montage of scenes, and you pull that in. In fact, there's nothing that stops you from doing this. Watch this here. I'm going to open Slivers again, And let's do, this will be intriguing to say the least. Okay. Let's go, well, make it the fewest number of times. So I'm going to select this scene here with a split half-half on the left and a 2/3 part of the scene on the right. Okay, so here's the waterfall on the right, the full scene. And on the left, let's select the scene that we made before with the multiples. Okay, so there's nothing stopping you from having multiples of multiples. In fact, I know that there's going to be some people in the community, I'm going to have to caution them and say, you know what, too much going on, too much going on. Okay, a couple of colleagues have asked, now how do you do titles over this? Very easy. Right? Now you can't do it in Slivers, okay? Because Slivers is just like any of the products we have inside Special. What we have to do is make a scene of it, add it to the storyboard, and then it's just a matter of, you know, doing a regular title on top of that. Okay? Very easy to do. Very easy to do. Isn't that fun? Fun stuff. So think about not only single scenes that would just add punch and impact to the beginning of a DVD or the introduction of your program. Think about building a collage. In fact, I wanted to do that for you, so I did. Check this out. Let's show you the simpler version, then we'll show you the complex version. What I did is I took some scenes from our vacation in Europe this year, and I created this sequence. So, you know, we've got a sequence here where we have in the Louvre, the Palace of Versailles, the Latin Quarter, and then, you know, looking down the Seine River at a boat that's near the great cathedral there. Okay. So yeah, you know, as I suggested, this would make a great menu page, and these can be the buttons for your DVD. Okay, good point, Jim. So you could use this scene as one of the buttons or stamps inside of the DVD. So might be a little bit, what's the right word? Overkill, but what's nice, and this is what I love, when our developers, our software developers, give us options like this, that it's like putting more tools in my cabinet here. I have more tools available for me to create the kind of thing that I want. So I said, you know, that's kind of cool, but I wanted to build on that. So here's what I did. Let me show you the steps. This is going into intermediate, okay? If your brain's already smoking, sit back and say, well, what do you think so far? What do you think of Slivers, folks? Give me some feedback, folks. What do you think of Slivers so far? Type in a comment or two, please. Especially if you haven't commented. If you have, okay. All right, someone says, nice. Awesome. There you go. Would be a great time saver. I agree. I think that's one of the coolest things is that it, you know, it not only is it exciting, thank you for that comment, very flexible, looks great. One of our colleagues says, I've already used it in a wedding video with a great effect. Great, thank you, Bernard. I think so. I agree, Bobby. I think it is. I think it is one of the easiest software applications in terms of the abilities that they've given us. You know, I know people who are on this morning would easily be able to create stuff like this using Pip Studio. I shouldn't say easily. Can capably create stuff like this. But the amount of steps that they did to go through that, you know, you'd have to build it up in the storyboard, make a scene of it, take it up again. This one, it just does it. I think that you nailed it. It's exciting, it's creative, and it's a time saver. All right. So this is not a time saver, what I'm going to show you, okay? Now what I took is I took those same scenes of Europe, excuse me, and I adjusted them. I trimmed them to different lengths. So here I have one that's 425, and here's one that's 320. I made a scene of that, okay? And here it is in the scene bin with a simple 1-second crossfade between it. Okay? Now, this will all make sense in a moment, maybe. And I took another one at 4:06, so I wanted it to have different times, 4:06 and 7:04 with a 1-second crossfade. I have 6:06 with a 5-second scene and a crossfade. I have a very short one, 2:22, with a longer scene and a crossfade. Okay. Then what I did is I pulled them up into slivers, okay, and I used the diagonal, which I don't think I'm going to use this too often. It's maybe a nice idea, but you know, the video. The other thing is, the video really needs to complement what it is you're after. Okay, so to use something like a triangular approach, your primary subject really would need to be focused on the bottom here, you know, on the or the ability to adjust it. So some content's not going to work well, and you're going to see there's one in particular. So, you know, I selected this, then I went in here, and what I did is I made scenes of those, and they're called crossfades. So here's crossfade number 1. Okay, and I added that to this side. Then we could go ahead, you know, and reposition that. Then in the second part here, I selected crossfade number 2. And we go ahead and let's reposition that. That's at the Louvre Museum outside. Then we go to part number 3 and select crossfade number 3. Okay, etc., etc., etc. Without going any further, you get what I'm doing. So let's look at the finished effect. So what's nice is you're going to see how the scenes change, but they don't change all at the same time. Okay, playing that again. They change at different intervals because I wanted to make it look like, you know, they were going at different times. And how you force that or cause that is, again, by varying the length of your scenes. So the transition is going to be able, it will change it up, okay? So here's another a different version of what you might do. So one of our colleagues, Jeffrey, says, I did that using Akaba, but it did take a while. Yep. So here's another version I thought was pretty darn cool. I selected 3 scenes, okay? And let's show you the version, actually. Okay. What I selected was the largest one you have available to you. That's a grid with 9 scenes. That's the most scenes that you can do. Okay? That's the most scenes that you can do, is 9 scenes total. Okay? So 3 scenes across the top, 3 scenes across the bottom. And you can actually see what I've done here. What I did, oh, this one's not covered up. I don't want that, actually, so we want to get rid of that. Okay. That. Okay. So what I did is I selected the same scene and did it 3 times. Then I picked a next scene and did it 3 times. Then I selected another scene and did it 3 times as well. Okay. Now these are the cross-faded scenes. So here's the finished look that you have. You know, really cool, really nice capabilities. Okay. One more layer on top of this, and then we'll finish up, and I have an advanced one if people are interested. So I took that and I said, I have an idea. What I'd like to do is, you know, take that triple here, and it's hard to see, the boat is moving, but I should have selected perhaps a different scene that had more movement there. There, okay, there's some movement. And what I'd like to do is emphasize the center. So what I did is I took a single scene. I took this single scene that I hadn't used inside that effect, and I wanted, well, maybe long story short, maybe I'll just show you the finished version, huh? Okay. Well, what I wanted to do is have that single scene kind of come out of the background, and here's what the finished effect looks like. So everything is moving except the center panel. You're going to see the center panel will move when everything else freezes, and then I had it zoom out using picture-in-picture. Okay? Then what I did is I added titles on top of that, and we have zoom letters when the content is zooming. So again, we have, so watch the end here. As the scene zooms out, so does the letters, introducing the audience to our Paris travel video. Isn't that cool? Neat stuff. Neat stuff. All right. Well, I'm going to stay on the line if you have questions. There's the template. Thanks so much for joining me today. Today's webinar was brought to you by yours truly, the Casablanca Expert. If you've not considered a membership, I would invite you to do so. It's 35 cents a day to have access to all this knowledge. Okay? You can do so by visiting CasablancaExpert.com. Okay? Sign up for a 1-month membership, and I'll tell you what, if you don't think it was worth your money, it's worth your time, let me know at the end of the month and I'll refund every single penny. Okay? I only want happy customers. Thanks so much for joining me. Milo, great to have you along from Holland. We had a colleague from Cyprus. We had a colleague join us from the UK and all over North America. So thanks so much for tuning in today. Have a great rest of the day. And if you haven't already, make sure you fill out the workshop survey, okay? Especially if you're from North America. Now, I am having some continued conversation with the hope of getting down in the next 18 months to Australia and also over to the UK. So go ahead and shoot me an email if you're interested in a workshop or seminar in those remote areas. Otherwise, please fill out the online workshop survey. Thanks for joining me today. Have a great rest of the day. I'm going to hang around for a few minutes and answer questions. Thank you, Graham. Thanks for the feedback, Kevin and Daniel. And Milo or Milo, I apologize on the name. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Graham. Glad to have you along today. Thank you, Seth. Appreciate that. Thanks, Bobby. Thanks, Michael. Appreciate that. Thank you, Linda. Great to have you all along today on the journey. Okay, we got a couple questions here. Thank you, Jim. Oh, Nancy says, what is it you were going to tell us at the end of the session? You know what? I'm not sure. Actually, I do have an advanced one that I'll show you in just, I'll show you here. Audio. There you go, the audio. Okay. 2 things with audio. Let's see. Rendering time in HD. I am in HD. Now, we're talking, 4 and 6 seconds. I would say I've been actually impressed with the render time. I would say it's, and this is totally a shot from the hip, maybe 2 or 3 times the length of it. Well, let's just gauge it right now. Let's just build one really quick, a simple one. That's a great question, so let's answer that. We'll go ahead and launch Slivers, and let's do a double. So we're selecting type. Let's select 2 here. And, okay, we got 2 scenes right there. Okay, let's just reposition that a little bit there and move this down. Oh, I can see that I don't have that fully covered, do I? There we go. Okay. You know what? It's too short, though, huh? It says it's too short relative to that one. So why is it too short? Well, this one should be 7:15 also. Oh, it's 10. That's fine. Where's one that's 7:15? I'll just do the same thing. Okay. Just so we have a scene in there and we know what time it is. Okay, so this is 7:15. We're starting it now. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 1007. Oops, not showing it. Thank you. 1008, 1010. I know I'm smudging my numbers up. 2011, 2012, 13, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 1019, 1020, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. So it's close to 28 seconds at the half point. So I can see that I grossly underestimated the time. So we're at 7 times 4 is 28. Looks like it's about 8 times real time. Okay. Yes, we've got somebody asking. The recording for today's session, assuming that the recording went fine and well, which I won't know until it's over, believe it or not. Wonderful technology here. Will be available within 48 hours. So anyone who is registered will have access to the content. You'll get an email with that. Okay? All right. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. But so you can see we're about 8 times real time, I think. So someone's asking what would it be with the render booster that's been talked about. You need Bogart version 5. And here's the skinny, and I don't know how publicly it's been shared, at least on this side of the pond. But the render booster, my understanding, somebody correct me if I'm not true, but the render booster does not improve or speed up general project rendering. It only benefits you for importing of HD and also the exporting, the DVD authoring and Blu-ray. So Render Booster is a big benefit from an end user standpoint. I don't sell the stuff anymore, but only in Arabesque and the export from the edit window. So getting stuff out. Okay. So coming back on other questions here, Jeff asked, what about content that has different lengths? Okay, content that has various, so what you'd have to do, Jeff, is modify each scene so it is the correct length, just like we would in the in the old version of Pip or Pip Studio. Okay. Thank you, Brian. Great to have you along today. Thanks for joining us. And the question Elon asked, as a Casablanca expert website member, do you help with specific issues? Yes, I don't promise telephone help. I don't do tech support, only training and instruction. So if it's a hardware or software problem, number one, I'm not the best person to deal with that. Number two, I don't promise to offer that. However, that being said, a lot of times there are operational issues that we can provide you. So by virtue of your membership, you have access to email me specific questions. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll refer people to articles on the website that already answer or address questions. And the cool thing is, though, I regularly get questions from people that aren't covered on my website, and I create a new tutorial that will not only answer your question and benefit you, but it also benefits other people. Okay? Thank you, Peter. Great to see you today. Yes, I'm told that's true as well, Mike, that it supposedly improves the quality of down conversion. Now, I haven't experienced that myself, so, proof is in the pudding, they say. I'm not trying to be a naysayer, but I always, before I publicly share any benefit, I want to make sure either that I have experienced it myself or a colleague has in the same color standard. I'm going back here. We had a couple of other questions here. Here's Mr. Mack. He asked, how did you freeze the one behind? Okay, this is like intermediate advanced level, but I know you're up to that, Mike. Okay. So what I did is I took the original scene. Okay. I took the original scene, which was here. And this takes a bit of work, but I thought it was worth it. I scrolled to the very last scene and made a still of it. Okay. So here's the original scene with motion. I went to the very last frame and made a still scene of it, that's right there. Okay? I put those two together in the storyboard and did not add a transition because it's going to mess up the, I want the very last frame of this scene to be the very first frame of this scene, and that's what it is, and that's what I've got. So what we have, without adding a transition in a transition menu, we have motion, and then it freezes. Okay? I made a scene of those two. Again, no transition. Make a scene of those two. We have a new scene down inside the scene bin, where it starts out in motion, and it ends up being a freeze frame for the last 7 seconds. Okay? I added that to the storyboard. Then I did the opposite to one of these. Okay? I took this scene, let's see, that has somebody walking in, where, here, right here. Okay? Somebody's walking down the Louvre. And I took the very first frame of that and made a freeze frame of that. And it's the same length, okay? It's 7:15. It's the same length as the motion scene over here, okay? Then I add, so what we have is we have a scene here that is full motion with a freeze frame at the end. And what I have here is the opposite. I have a freeze frame up front. That freeze frame runs the same length of time as the motion clip for that 9-box pip window. And then it goes to a full motion scene. I put them back to back, okay, and using Pip Studio 2, I positioned that scene so it's in the dead center. And then I had the zoom effect where it comes out at the very end. Can you use it in 3D video? I'm not sure if you mean the 3D editor or the Pip 3D. Pip 3D, I probably wouldn't use it because with Pip 3D, you know, you're dealing with the extrusions. You're dealing with the extrusions on the edges, and I don't know that that would work for the effect, personally. And maybe I'm wrong. I'm open to. Okay? One other thing about the audio. So if I had, and I've got a great audio clip here. Let me find it. Oh, it's in my other scene bin. It's an accordion player on the bridge outside the Notre Dame Cathedral. And I intentionally videotaped it just for the sound. Just for the sound. And yes, I did give the gentleman some euros to thank him for contributing. And I don't plan on using this as a broadcast on national TV, so I'm less worried about copyright impact there. But see, I did think about all those things. See, I came across it yesterday when I was planning this out, but did I mark it? No, that would have been smart, wouldn't it? Well, you get the idea, but I'll do it with any scene, but oh, that would have been so fun to do. Stan, let me just try one more minute. I was going to say one more second, but it's not really a second. It's a minute. Now, footage all from the Canon HFS11. Thank you for that, Seth. Let's see. Have you tried to make white borders a little bit thicker and then use Candy Factory to embellish the borders? Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought I showed how you can pull in any of the. Oh, I see what you're saying. To just use Candy Factory on a finished effect with the luminance key. Ah, good idea. Like it. Ooh, I like your thinking, Seth. Good idea. I have not tried that. Let me look for my Wild Track audio here. Close, but no cigar. Oh, well. We'll just have to sort of assume. Let me show you the process. It won't be quite the big panache that I was hoping for, but oh, well. You know, if we had audio from one of these scenes that's going to end up being our piece, okay, what we want to do is select the scene that has the audio we want, okay? Go to Special, use scene to sample, left click OK, it creates that audio sample. So over here we have that audio sample, and then go to mix, and underneath the slivers effect we'd add it to the storyboard. Click it, mute the original audio, add our new audio sample, and adjust the volume appropriately. So that's how we would replace the audio from that scene. Okay? Yeah, I mean, you can, that's the beauty of it. You can push. I think the other big function is, M3D2. In fact, let's just do one here. With a longer range and make a really cool opening. So I'm going to use, let's go M3D3. Let's go for a little bit of time here. I mean, you can have some real fun with, so the full-sided cube. Review the sides. Review the borders with the split screen. Yeah, you can, you can have all kinds of fun with, with melt. I mean, it's just, that I don't care for so much, and I know that's not what you were suggesting. But all kinds of nice choices. Someone's suggesting the split screen wipes. The split screen wipes, I think you're talking about. Yeah. And then, we've got the USB, we've got all the tons of capabilities. So lots of choices and options to be sure. All right, folks, thanks for joining me today. I need to get out of here, get this recording processed and up and available for folks. Thanks for tuning in today. Appreciate your time and hope you make it a great day. Hey, if you enjoyed today's session, talk about it, okay? The way I keep my business alive is through people subscribing to my membership, buying my tutorials. And if you want me to be here, let's just be blunt. Things are going well, but if you want me to continue to be a resource for you, tell somebody about it. Tell somebody about it on Facebook. Tell somebody about it on the Cassie Tips list. Tell somebody about it on the Casablanca forum. Say, hey, I just sat in this webinar. I learned so much, or whatever it is. Now, if you got bad things to say, send it to me in an email, and I'll deal with that. All right? Thanks again. Have a fantastic day. Bye-bye now.